Hello and welcome to the Pickle Jar. My name's Josh and in today's video I'm going to show you how to paint green Salamander armour using contrast paint. Hi guys, welcome to the video. So just before we get started, just want to say that if you're enjoying the content that we're doing here on the Pickle Jar, be sure to leave a like on the video and a comment down below letting me know what you think. And if you're new, then subscribe so you can keep up to date with all the tutorials we'll be releasing in the future. So recently I started doing tutorials on the channel, and as I am painting my Salamander Space Marines at the moment, I thought I'd continue to focus on those. One of the questions that I get asked quite a lot when I post pictures of any of my miniatures in the groups that I'm part of is how I've painted the armour. Now for my Salamander Space Marines, I've been using primarily some of the new contrast paints, just to get the base coat on and then doing a little bit of highlighting afterwards. So I thought I would show my process and how I get the colour green that I've been using on all my Space Marines so far. It's a really nice, easy technique. So without any further ado, here we go with the tutorial. So for my Salamander armour, I'm using the Wraithbone contrast undercoat. So I sprayed the miniature, and then once that was all dry, I took some contrast warp lightning. Now this is the contrast paint that I'm using for the armour. With contrast paint, you always put more on than you need. I've found it's easier to put more on, and then once you've applied the paint onto your model, if there is too much on, you can then take it off with a clean brush. But that's how it works, getting the different shades, like going into the recesses to give you your shaded areas, and obviously flowing off of the higher points to give those the highlights. So what you want to do when you're applying this is always make sure you finish your brush strokes where you want the colour to be the darkest, because that is where your brush will be loaded up when you finish your brush strokes. So I'm working down the armour here. Now I'm trying to be as neat as possible. I do make a couple of mistakes on this model, but trying to be as neat as possible, because if you are just using contrast paint and you're just sort of going through, for some things it will work. You can just sort of slop it on and it's fine. Things like poxwalkers or anything like that. But for Space Marines, because they are quite uniform, I've found that trying to be as neat as possible, applying the initial base coat, gives you a nice even finish afterwards. And you don't want to rework any areas while it's still wet underneath, because what you will get is patching, and you will be pulling the paint before it's fully dried. And this is what it's like when you're trying to paint with a cat around. So you can put a couple of layers on if you want. I only put one layer on for my armour because I think that it looks fine. I don't like to go too dark with my Salamanders. Once that's all on and dry, I took some Moot green and watered it down a little bit. Just with water. You can use medium if you prefer, but I generally just use water. And then what I'm doing here is highlighting around the edges. So any edges, so like just above the knee pad and on the top of the knee pads. Any lines, basically just doing some edge highlighting, but not too fine, because what we're going to do in a bit is do a final edge highlight with a brighter colour. So if you water this down quite a lot, don't overload your brush too much and you're almost glazing this on rather than painting it on. If you go careful with it, then the blend from the darker contrast green up to the Moot green is quite nice and really easy to achieve. So I'm focusing on, like I said, all the edges, tops of the knee pads, the tips of the boots, all across the helmet, like any lines, any edges that you can find, just doing a watered down edge highlight. So there is another YouTuber who has also been, well, he's been doing a series of videos called Heavy Contrast Marines. It's where he has attempted to replicate the box art with the heavier metal style, but using contrast paint as a base. His YouTube channel is Juanhidalgo Miniatures. I'll put a link to it down below, and there'll be a link in the top right hand corner of the video now, because he's also done a Salamander as part of that series. So what I'm doing at this point is taking a mix of Moot green and Yriel yellow, and then once again just watering that down quite a lot, and then very steadily just putting a final highlight on the areas that would be brightest. So again, it's just a very thin edge highlight on any edges. Not all of them, because I generally don't like to go too over the top with edge highlighting. But just anywhere where the armour would be the brightest. So I think that using the Warp Lightning contrast paint as a base is absolutely brilliant. I don't think that contrast paint is a be-all and end-all, will fix everything and make you an amazing painter, but I definitely think it has its purpose. And I've been really enjoying painting my Salamanders using that as a base and then highlighting up from there. So all I'm doing is highlighting the very top areas with this brightest highlight. Generally whenever I'm painting anything, unless there's some light source on the miniature itself, I always paint as though the light is shining from directly above, just because it's easier that way to get a nice uniform look across, like a full squad or a full army. And there we go, that is all the green armour on this Salamander finished. So there you go guys, that's how to paint a Salamander's armour using contrast paints. Like I said, it's a nice easy method, not too many steps, it's not too over the top, and I think that the effect looks really nice. The more time you spend on this, the nicer it will look. Being neater with your contrast paints or being more selective with your highlights. I like quite a bright looking green armour, which is why I've put quite a lot of the final highlights on and blended that in. But if you're not a fan of that, then you can just leave that out or not put quite as many on, and I'm sure that you'll come up with something that you think looks good. This week on the Community Spotlight, I've been sent some pictures by my good friend and long-time supporter of the channel, Mike Flinders. He sent me some pictures of some of his Marines that he's been doing for his Red Scorpions. So here we are. Now, all three of these look absolutely fantastic. Mike's work is really good. I really love his attention to detail and how clean his models look. It's really sharp lines, the colours are great, and I think these look brilliant, and I can't wait to see him do more for his Marines. So there you go. That's if you want to check out Mike's Instagram, he is Mike's Brushwork on Instagram. I'll put a link down below in the description. If you want to see some of your own work showcased here on the Community Spotlight, then send an email to the email address in the description below with some pictures and a link to your Instagram or Facebook page if you've got one, and I'll be sure to show them off on a future episode. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can contact us on our Facebook, Twitter or Instagram pages, or you can leave a comment down below on this video. If you're new to the Pickle Jar, then don't forget to subscribe so you can keep up to date with everything we do in the future. That's all from me. I'll see you next week with another video.